How do we deal with the denigration of women who prefer to be housewives? My wife has spent 9 years in university to become an architect, only to realize a year after finishing that no one told her it was acceptable to be a homemaker. Her reaction was to cry and tell me she feels that by doing this she will not contribute to society enough. This seems to be a net negative in my humble opinion, that we are brainwashing young girls with Marxist ideas of everyone being a good worker, rather than driving people towards their ideals. So I talked about the larger issue of choice. Often in feminist space, choice only refers to abortion. But the larger issue of choice, I think it was in my conversation with Kelly J. Keene on Biological Women's Hour that posted a week and a half or two ago, which I recommend. That we certainly don't want to go regressive back to like Mad Men era 1950s. This is what's expected, like that obituary that I read in the last hour, and we also don't want to go sort of full abandonment of motherhood, second wave feminism, working outside the home, whether or not there are any good options for you or you want to do it is the only thing to choose. Both of those are insufficient as choices that women should be allowed to make. And frankly, I heard a story similar to this, not exactly this, between well, actually, I'm not going to say who it was, but some well-known people who found themselves in this very situation. And I have to say that unless it's a very different generation, I don't recognize it. I don't recognize the world that what is the language? No one told them that it was acceptable to be a homemaker, or brainwashing young girls with Marxist ideas of everyone being a good worker. Like, I don't recognize either of those things at all from anything I've ever seen or experienced. For me, it was like, you can be anything you want. And, I love being a mother, but I was never driven. I didn't play with dolls. It was not the thing that was interesting to me as a child to imagine that life for myself later on. Even though if you had asked me, I probably would have said, well, sure, I expect so. I don't know, we'll see, right? And there are also, many girls for whom they think that is the thing that they want. And then they discover some passion and they discover that it's actually not the thing that they want to do later on. And maybe they never do become mothers, and that also should be legitimate. So I guess I'm a little recoiling and also resisting the narrative built into this question of this landscape of women as workers and men as workers and everyone just need to work, because I think our economy is forcing this on people. But I don't think this is coming from on high in any way. I think we're being forced, both parents in double parent homes are being forced to work because they can't pay the bills otherwise, even when one of them would prefer not to be working. And that's a damn shame. Like, we should not have that being the case. But, if you're spending a lot of time in school thinking, and, if your education is any good at all of it should be about considering why you're doing what you're doing, why you're there, what is it that you're hoping to accomplish in the world. And I'm saddened and disheartened that you would get to the end. Only at the end of it would you realize that you actually had a choice all along.
I would also point out that at this moment, we are facing a situation in which all of us whose kids are in school are now watching a pathogenic view on the universe being inflicted on children. And there's a certain amount that you can do over dinner each night where you make them immune to taking this on. But increasingly, school is becoming less and less valuable. And the role of a parent in getting proper software into the kid's head is growing more important. And at some point, the point is, is a household in which one parent takes on the role of making sure that, the kids are well oriented to the world and keeps them away from the nonsense, is that the household of the future, and then the question is an economic one. How does such a household float?
But I don't think that household, frankly, all else being equal, will produce children as able to navigate all of the complexity of the world as if both of their parents are actually doing parenting. And take a step back from, hard-hitting 80, 100, 120 hours a week careers. It's really hard to make this argument to, a lot of people in a lot of careers. The world is not set up this way. But frankly, we did it. And, we were blessed with a lot of things that were true. Right. We were both college professors with a lot of flexibility in our schedules, and we could schedule things in advance such that, when one of us was in class, the other one wasn't, and such. And we had really a truly amazing on-campus daycare situation where we could go part-time such that, for a few hours a day, a few days a week, when we both really needed to be working, our kids could be there and be socialized as well.
And
right?
we lived close enough to campus
that we were biking them back and forth.
We didn't need to touch the car during an average week. It's not to say that we didn't get in the car, but the point is commute time was 0 or near to it.
Yep. So everything about that situation was like, and we were both thrilled to be parents and excited to be part of the raising of the children. There was no sense, it's no one's favorite job to change diapers, but there was no sense that it was your job or my job. It was our job because we had this kid and it needed to be changed.
And
right?
it wouldn't be reasoned with.
Just no, there is now. I'm really pleased to find, but
true.
But there's no reasoning with the baby.
Okay, but then the point is, look, we've got an economic problem, which is that 2 incomes are necessary to raise a family.
Yeah.
We've got a school is going crazy, and therefore, it's not obvious that the wiring of children should ever have been offloaded as far as it was. It's not obvious that was a good idea.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, the insanity of the moment is revealing, that, are all the reasonable kids going to be kids whose parents rescued them from a educational system in free fall? Right? I mean, that strikes me as plausible.
Well, most parents can't afford to.
So the question is, what will happen? And then maybe that interfaces with COVID in a weird way, in the sense that the world has just discovered that a lot of the
I thought that's what you were talking about, was the educational free fall resulting from COVID. Now you're talking about all the wokeness.
The madness.
Oh.
I mean, my basic sense is the purpose of school is primarily to enhance the capacity of the mind, and effectively it is now doing the opposite. It's creating mind damage. And to the extent that school is going to mind damage your kids, people are going to catch on that they actually, for the moment, are not required to participate in that process. And, I think lots of things are possible. For one thing, there's got to be a mechanism for a group of parents who all simultaneously reach this realization to opt their kids out together. And then, those kids, of course, are going to be better armed for the future than anybody else. So, when are we going to see this revolution? It seems like it's ready to dawn.
It sure is. I'm reminded